you bring up keeping it simple. We've probably spoken with 7 or 8 different guests now, and they're all very successful in our industry, and every one of them has brought up keeping it simple.
Yep.
It's really not a complicated business unless you make it complicated. You know, it's just, and I think we do it to ourselves. Like, we try to overcomplicate it. And if you just stick with the basics and do the simple things well over and over and over again, it'll work.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and tender-loving Todd Liles, a coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence, are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
Listeners, welcome back. We got another wonderful show for you here, which is a season recap where Alan and I are hand-selecting our favorite guest and our favorite themes. Now, the theme of this episode is growth versus foundation. There are many wonderful quotes out there, but one that is often cited is, "Who builds a house before they count the cost?" This is a wonderful way of saying that before you begin to erect your dream home, you need to take a moment and then you need to actually say, hey, what is it going to cost to do this? And then before you build that dream home, you need to build it on a solid foundation. This is business. Businesses must be built upon solid foundation, because if we try to grow our business too quickly before the foundation is set, we are setting ourselves up for a disastrous tumble. And this episode is a great episode to hear from the leaders that have been here, who have done these things, who've made these mistakes, and of course corrected. I know you're going to really enjoy this episode, this theme of growth versus foundation.
Let's go back to the early 1990s. Ellen was working with her husband, Hot Rod Rohr, in the family business, Rohr Plumbing, based in Missouri. Despite graduating at the top of her class with a degree in business administration, Ellen realized she had no understanding of how to read a financial statement or manage the business's money. The company was bleeding cash, and Ellen admits she was running it into the ground without even knowing it. The painful season became the wake-up call that sent her on a quest to understand the fundamentals of business. Ellen, can you take us back to the moment you realized you didn't actually understand the number?
Yeah, I so didn't want to look at it at all. I'm like, can't someone else do this? Like, I'm the worst possible person who could be put in charge of keeping track of the money. And so a few things happened that changed the course of my life. One is that my dad was a very successful business person, and we grew up very privileged, my sisters and my brother and I. And then my dad made some poor decisions at the end of his life and completely surprised my mom by running out of money.
Oh, wow.
And it was devastating to the family, and instead went into a lot of debt. And I have a lot of respect and love for my parents. But one of the things it taught me is, like, you got to pay attention. And my mom was completely sidelined by this, like, did not see this coming in any way, shape, or form. We were all adults by the time this comes to light. And I do think Hot Rod's still a little miffed that he didn't marry an heiress like he thought he was going to. But be that as it may, that was one of the things that taught me, like, well, you know, I should pay more attention. I don't want to. I'm not designed that way, but I better pay attention. And then as I got into it and I realized we're going into debt, I quit my real job to go work with Hot Rod to help him with this business. And it's terrible. I'm thinking, well, he'll turn wrenches. I'll count the money. How hard can it be? It was way over what I was capable of doing. We went into debt up to our eyeballs, and we fought all the time. And when I tell that story, I imagine, if you're listening, a lot of you can relate to that. That this is just like, it's not what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
When you first signed up, I thought this will be easy. I've had a million jobs. I can do this. And then I realized I had no idea what I was looking at, Alan. I was in over my head. I was really struggling with it. So this is when I write my buddy Frank Blau a letter. And Frank's the one who wrote this column, 1989, Plumbing and Mechanical Magazine, How Much Should a Contractor Charge? And it's about a contractor who wrote him a letter, a guy named Ron Coates. I can remember every bit of this because I read the trade magazine. Now we have podcasts, right? It used to be just the trade magazines. I was just like trying to figure out how do you do this? And the magazines were super helpful, still are. And I read this article and then I wrote Frank this letter. Dear Mr. Blau, please help me. And the first paragraph is like, we hate each other. We're not making any money. I don't know what I'm doing. But then I spend 2 pages telling him why everything he just wrote in this article was wrong.
Oh.
My customers won't buy that. My team members won't buy it. Like blah, 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 blah. And he published a book called The Business of Contracting by Frank Blau with my letter in it as a demonstration of how stupid contractors are. Yeah. Thanks, Frank.
Well, we love that
But he was
story.
right. And like I got, so then he calls me up after I write him this letter. He calls me up. He tells me, you think you know everything? Shut this business down. You don't know what you're doing. Let your people go, is what he essentially said to me. Like, free your people. You're gonna sink them and you and your family. And he just let me have it. So be prepared when you talk to Frank.
All right.
Yeah, wow.
We'll do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But he was the one then that said, I'll show you how to read a balance sheet and a profit and loss. And I hung up on him the first day I talked to him, but then I called him back the next day.
what, did he make you mad?
And I said, laid low, like totally humbled and just like, okay, I'm ready. I'll take whatever you got because I am not willing to live this life anymore. And it still took me a minute. I still fought him. Being smart is not helpful.
I get it.
Because you'll just keep thinking 10 steps down the chessboard. When, just do what's in front of you. Just this is what I mean. The hard lesson for me, Ellen, was cutting out all the fancy stuff to make it simple. What few things really matter? Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Have some empathy. Book the call. Get the tech to the job. Listen. Make suggestions. Shut up. Do the work.
Yeah.
They say yes. Ask for the money. Go home. Do it again. Like, there's just like, if we just keep it really simple, I think most of my career was spent making it fancy and then making it unfancy. Like all these years later, it's just like, what are the few things that really matter to the customer? And let's do that. So that's kind of the long way around, but that's where I first started it. But I remember then with Frank just finally coming to the point where I went, big sigh. Okay, I'll do it. I'll figure out the money. My dad, that situation was weighing on me. It was my money. It was my debt. I couldn't afford to pay anybody to fix it for me. I had to learn how to read profit and loss, learn how to do the accounting system. Back in the day, it was Peachtree.
Yes.
Then we went to MYOB. Then we went to CompuSource. Then I went to SuccessWare. Now, of course, I'm on Service Titan. But just trying to find the path every step of the way. And I am the least likely person still to understand accounting and finance. But if I can do it, anybody can if they're motivated enough to figure out where their money is.
It's interesting, Ellen. You bring up keeping it simple. We've probably spoken with 7 or 8 different guests now, and they're all very successful in our industry, and every one of them has brought up keeping it simple.
Yep.
It's really not a complicated business unless you make it complicated. It's just, and I think we do it to ourselves. Like, we try to overcomplicate it. And if we just stick with the basics and do the simple things well over and over and over again, it'll work.
And over a 7-year period, you went from being someone who was in the field, and we always know that when we have revenue generators in the field, we never get rid of them. And then you went into the position of overhead, which is sort of like, all right, I'm in management. But then in 2008, the recession hit, and you found out what a lot of people in overhead realize is that when overhead can't be supported, things change. So you were let go during that recession, even though you never saw this as a paycheck. It was always bigger than that, but you were let go. And I want to know, what did that season teach you?
Well, looking back at it now, I have the benefit of hindsight and maturity to frame it in a way that serves me. I don't know that I was that generous back then
At the
when it
moment, you were
actually
probably
happened.
pissed off, right?
That's the knee-jerk response. It was out of the blue, But like I said, like I'm much more empathetic to how difficult of a decision that was for Wyatt at the time, because it didn't actually happen in 2008. Like, I mean, he mortgaged his house. He was like selling things. He was doing everything he could to like keep the business afloat and keep as many good people as he could. And like I say, looking back now, I can understand where the decision came from and how it was hard. But yeah, it sucked at the time. Um, you know, I had the thing that I learned during that season, I started out just being grateful because I had earlier that year, I had started the process of getting out of debt and building up a 6-month emergency fund. I felt
Okay.
prompted to do that and inspired. And I didn't
Shout
realize
out.
at the time why I was doing it, but it ended up coming in handy. And it's easy now looking back to see like God's hand in the whole thing, in what it did to strengthen not just me as a marketer but me as a person, and all of those lessons that I learned during that time in other industries and things like that. Wyatt and I never, like a year after it happened, Wyatt started coming back to me saying like, "Hey, the business is in a much better position. I'd love for you to be able to like come back." And our schedules just never really like synced up. And then in 2015 is when it clicked, where the opportunity to come back made sense for me and him, and I was able to come back and just do marketing. And so I learned a lot of stuff in that season of life, but always the unexpected could happen at any time. Life can change on a dime. And, they say, God laughs at us when we make plans, but I do believe that, he had a hand in what was going on. And looking back and having the perspective of faith and seeing like how God led me through that. There are times when I'm like, well, you led me through that. Couldn't you have like just led me around it so that I didn't have to learn those lessons? But sometimes the only way out is through, and we become better for it.
I'll tell you, one of the conversations that I'll have with God sometimes is, I know that hardship teaches me lessons, makes me stronger, makes me better. And I should probably pray for them, but I don't want to, God. I do not want to pray for those hardships. But if you're going to give them to me, I'll take them. By the way, shout out to Dave Ramsey for that 6-month emergency fund, right? We're going to get some shout outs there. And when you left, I'm going to truncate this a little bit for the audience. You learned how to sell door to door. You really learned how to knock doors, sell window sidings. You ended up building a team underneath you. So it's not like you didn't do anything for 7 years. You did some big things. You learned a lot about leadership.
If the advice I would give for someone just starting a business would be different. It would be this advice. I would say, understand your numbers, join an organization, period. Todd has an organization. I'd join his organization. Join it, learn from what he has. You need the foundation. You guys, when we joined ESI, which Todd was a part of back then, we started training 5 days a week. We had our guys in at 7 a.m. We built that foundation. We took them all to trainings. We put the money into our people. So someone just starting off, they probably don't have any employees, or they just have 1 or 2 people that they're just starting with. I would say get trained up, paint the vision, and I would hire people that you can see in your business when it's 10 employees, and when it's 20 employees, and when it's 50 employees. Believe that you're going to have a business that big one day, because if you just cap it at 5 employees, you're going to make money. but you're going to just be a place where you're training up got good guys for your competitors, because they're only going to stay so long because you can only pay them so much. If you're going to cap it at 10, 15, 20, 30 employees, once you decide you're going to cap it, those employees can only go so far. There's only so many management positions. There's only so many foreman positions. There's only so many of all those positions. So my advice would be hire people that you believe that you're going to be able to keep long term.
Stacey, what I would say to you is, you just built a huge house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So look on it like building a huge house. What you're doing now in the next year, 18 months, is you're pouring the foundation.
Amen.
Good way to put it.
And if you get that foundation right,
Yep.
and this happens again,
Good way to put it.
you can build that
Mm-hmm.
20,000 square foot house if you
Mhm.
want to, right?
Mhm.
Or $20 million business or $30 million business, whatever it might be. But if the foundation's not right,
Mhm.
it'll wobble again.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so get the foundation right. I think you're doing exactly the right things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Listeners, before I get out of here, I want to tell you just a very simple little story that I remember. When I was growing up, I did construction work with my brother-in-law, and I remember him laying out these blueprints, and he was showing me these blueprints and how these blueprints represented a house that actually couldn't be built upon the foundation that was laid. Now, what was interesting about that is that my brother-in-law, Mackie, who's a wonderful home builder to this day, said this happens all the time, where the architect actually draws up prints that don't match the actual way that a home can be built. He said that's shocking and it's surprising, but it occurs. And I think that there is a commonality here also amongst business owners, which is sometimes they make up dreams or they draft out plans that they're actually not able to actually build. So today we talked about growth over foundation. And what I would say is that foundation is always the key. The foundation is laid and the blueprints should be drawn on top of the foundation, because if we have a solid foundation, we can build really amazing things. And that's what I took from this episode, listener, and I hope you took that as well. Now, join us again for another great episode and another theme recap next week as we continue to recap the best of this season.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and tender loving Todd Liles.